according to the state media. According to intel that we've got on this guy at the moment, or at least the intel that's been released, I didn't think North Korea had anything that was capable of striking the mainland here in the States. Now, Guam and Hawaii might be within their targeting range. Hawaii a bit of a stretch, I would think. But who knows? Maybe our intel's not where it needs to be, or maybe our intel has been intentionally incomplete. So maybe we shouldn't completely ignore that. Just saying. Kim said, quote, "The time has come to settle accounts with the U.S. imperialists in view of the prevailing situation." Not sure what that's meant to be unless he's still just talking about the joint military operations, which happens every single year. But according to a report by the North's official Korean Central News Agency, later Friday, at the main square in the capital of North Korea, tens of thousands of North Koreans turned out for a 90-minute mass rally in support of Kim's call to arms. Men and women, many of them in olive drab uniforms, stood in arrow straight lines, fists raised as they chanted, "Death to the U.S. imperialists." Now pay attention, that's an important differential. It's not death to America, that's death to the U.S. imperialist. That's you and me, ladies and gentlemen. Whether you're really an imperialist or not, they think all American citizens are. So they're not calling out the country. They're not calling out our government. They're calling out us, each individual. Important distinction, ladies and gentlemen. Placards in the plaza bore harsh words for South Korea as well, including, "Let's rip the puppet traitors to death." Nice folks there in North Korea, aren't they? Small North Korean warships, including patrol boats, continued maritime drills off the coast of North Korea near the border with South Korea on Thursday. South Korean Defense Ministry spokesman Kim Min-suk said in a briefing Friday that he didn't provide details. The spokesman said that South Korea's military was mindful of the possibility that North Korean drills could lead to an actual provocation. He also said that the South Koreans and the U.S. militaries are watching closely for any signs of missile launch preparations in North Korea. He didn't elaborate. North Korea, which says it considers the U.S. South Korean military drill preparation for an invasion, has pumped out a string of threats in state media. In the most dramatic case, they made the highly improbable vow to nuke the United States. On Friday, the state media released a photo of Kim and his senior generals huddled in front of a map showing routes for envisioned strikes against cities on both American coasts. The map bore the title U.S. Mainland Strike Plan. Now tell me that's not made for TV. Portions of the photo appeared to be manipulated through the intriguing detail. A bandage on Kim's left arm appeared to be real. Interesting thing to note in the report. It's like, well, some of this picture looks fake, but we think that bandage on his arm might be real. Maybe he had a boo-boo, okay? Experts believe the country is years away from developing nuclear-tipped missiles that could strike the United States. Many say they've also seen no evidence that North Korea has long-range missiles that can hit the U.S. mainland. Still, there are fears of a localized conflict, such as a naval skirmish in disputed Yellow Sea waters. Such naval clashes have happened 3 times since 1999. There's also the danger that such a clash could escalate. Seoul has vowed to hit back hard the next time it's attacked. North Korea's threats are also worrisome because of its arsenal of short and mid-range missiles that can hit targets in South Korea and Japan. Seoul is only a short drive from the heavily armed border separating the Koreas. The North can fire 500,000 rounds of artillery on Seoul in the first hour of a conflict. They also note that North Korea has a history of testing new South Korean leaders, and the new president there just took office late last month. Since 1992, the North has welcomed these 5 new leaders by disturbing the peace. Interesting way of writing that as well. U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel told reporters Thursday that the decision to send B-2 bombers to join the military drills was part of a normal exercise and not intended to provoke North Korea. Hagel acknowledged, however, that North Korea's belligerent tones and actions in recent weeks have ratcheted up the danger in the region. Quoted, "And we have to understand that reality." U.S. forces, Korea, said that the B-2 stealth bombers flew from a U.S. Air Force base in Missouri and dropped dummy munitions on an uninhabited South Korean island range on Thursday before returning home. The Pentagon said that it was the first time a B-2 had dropped dummy munitions over South Korea, and later added that it was unclear whether there had ever been any B-2 flights there at all. The statement followed an earlier U.S. announcement that nuclear-capable B-2 bombers participated in the joint military drills. North Korean uses U.S. nuclear arsenal as a justification for its own push for nuclear weapons, and it claims that the U.S. nuclear firepower is a threat to its existence and provocation. The 2 Missouri-based stealth bombers used in South Korea drills probably weren't nuclear-armed, but experts say there's an aircraft that would likely be sent if Washington ever does decide it wants to drop nuclear bombs on North Korea. It would be those 2. The United States doesn't forward deploy nuclear weapons in South Korea, Okinawa, Guam, or Hawaii. The B-2s can reach targets from North Korea to Iran directly from Missouri, which is what the United States did in the early stages of operations against Yugoslavia, Afghanistan, and Iraq. That's the report from the AP. That's where we're standing right now. So let's take a commercial break. And when we come back, we'll delve past the headlines and we'll see if we can't tap into a little truth. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Tap into the truth. Check us out at tapintothetruth.com for our latest blog posts and for links to all of our past broadcasts. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and to follow us on Twitter. That's Tap Into the Truth right here on Spreaker Radio.
Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. And let me take this opportunity to remind you, yes, indeed, please spend a little time checking us out on Facebook and on Twitter. Give us a like, give us a follow, and while you're at it, go ahead and follow us here. And while you're at the website, check out some of our other outlets, as we are constantly working to increase the reach of Tap Into the Truth. Be sure to follow us here at Spreaker. The more follows we get, the easier it is for us to convince some folks who might be willing to sponsor us to go ahead and do that, so that we can then in turn increase the quality of the show, increase the quality of the programming, and hopefully at some point be able to spend enough time to make this a top-notch show, both here and at our other outlets as well. In the meanwhile, that is Tap Into the Truth, just like it's spelled right here on this show. 2 P's on tap, because, hey, I thought it would be cute if it had my name. At any rate, thanks for listening. Thanks for coming back with us. Glad to have you here tonight. And let's continue with the discussion, shall we? We are talking about North Korea at the moment. And the reason we're talking about North Korea, if you were with us before the break and listening live, you know that we have been facing now better than a week's worth of threats of just old school, old-fashioned saber rattling. Only a lot of this has been obviously done just for the purposes of the media. Kim Jong-un is taking his turn, just like Kim Jong-il, at trying to convince the great masses that he's a strong and powerful leader, and he's not afraid of America, and he's not afraid of South Korea. Of course, you know, none of the Koreans are really afraid of South Korea, because a lot of them still don't see the forced separation between the North and the South as being legitimate. They don't recognize the fact that South Korea now is its own individual nation and still has democracy. They refused to be run over by the communist regime that was attempting to take over the entire country. So they don't really fear South Korea. They would love an opportunity to really just go after it, because they think, number one, that China has their back on that. And honestly, if there were no other outside parties involved, China probably would. China would defend North Korea, I have no doubt about it, if South Korea was to invade. My concern with this situation this go-around, though, is something that most Americans have no real idea about. Unless you've taken the time to talk to some people who've managed to be in on the ground in North Korea, or caught a couple of really nice documentaries that are out there about what goes on. They had to sneak cameras in to do it. This type of information the government would never have allowed out. But unless you have some type of direct engagement, you would really have no idea. But the entire culture of North Korea, they are hammered away from a very early age with these just flat-out brainwashing techniques that makes these people believe that the glorious leader is practically a god. These are people that would receive medical treatment, and rather than thanking the doctor that provided it, they will go over to a giant poster of Kim Jong-il and praise him and thank him for their ability to be treated. And that would be the end of it. It's a culture where the government has put such a stranglehold on their people. And while you know the first people that were exposed to this did it in order to survive, they went along with it because they didn't want to face the guns that would be stuck in their face otherwise. We're a few generations in now. If you see people who are hammered away with something from a very early age and for a very long time, if they don't know any different, if they haven't seen for themselves, at some point they start to think, they start to believe maybe this stuff is legit. Maybe this really is the real deal. This is how we should think. This is how we should feel. We should honor the great leader. We should honor the leader father